The Bicycle Frame Builder's Apprentice, Chapter 11. Friday, the 10th of April, at dawn with a fine drizzle, making the pavements of Stockport glisten in the early morning light. In Ayfield it was raining heavily. However, by midday, the sun had broken through, and the weather forecast promised a fine weekend. As Rosie disembarked from the bus in Ayfield that evening, Connie was waiting for her, accompanied by Titch and her bike. "Are you going to give me a baccy?" Rosie asked. "No, but I am going to give you a treat." Before Rosie could enquire exactly what the treat involved, the younger girl said, "Come on, Mike is saving us a table in the Three Trees. We can have an ice cream." They set off, Connie pushing the bike. Titch walked ahead, stopping intermittently and turning towards them, his tail wagging, as if he were their guardian and leader. They crossed the main road and walked up the narrow passage by the church. The Three Trees faced them across the high street next to the river bridge. Mikey occupied a seat by the window, his face one big smile as he spotted them. The girls crossed the road and Rosie entered the premises as Connie placed her bike against another, already leaning against the cafe window. "Hiya, Mikey, how's your mum?" "She's fine, Rosie. She's meeting me here as soon as she's finished work. She shouldn't be long." Connie joined them. No sooner had she taken her seat than a young woman appeared, small notepad in hand and pencil poised. "Can I take your order?" "Do you want ice cream?" Connie asked her friends. Both agreed. The order was placed and duly served. It was now getting on for 5:40. Ayfield streets were busy with men and women returning from work, making last-minute visits to the shops to purchase food, intermingling with cyclists, walkers, and other visitors, along with their children, making their way to bed and breakfast accommodation and the kinder campsite. The cafe began to fill, and within a few minutes a breathless and cheerful Pearl greeted her son and his friends, a big smile on her face, no doubt pleased that another 5 days of wage slavery was ended and she had a weekend of freedom to enjoy. She picked up the menu. Rosie interrupted her deliberations. "This ice cream's really good, and it's Connie's treat." "Oh, no, it isn't. We're all buying our own." "But you said—" "Oh, no, I didn't. I said I had a treat for you, but it's not ice cream." "Well, what is it?" Rosie was obviously puzzled. "It's outside. My bike's leaning against it." Rosie frowned as she looked towards the window. Then enlightenment dawned. "You mean that old bike?" "It's not any old bike. It was Ralph's. It's a very good bike, and it's the right size for you. Mikey and me have put it in good order, so you can come cycling with us." "Oh, you can ride a bike, can't you, Rosie?" "Course I can." "Right. Hopefully you might be able to keep up with us. Malc and Tom are coming up tomorrow, and we're all going to Sage on Sunday." Pearl laughed. "Maybe I should get my old bike in good order again. I could do with losing some weight." "Ma'am, that old sit-up and beg's no good. You need a lightweight bike with drop handlebars." "Are you saying you wouldn't mind me coming with you? Wouldn't it ruin your street cred, Mikey dear, to be accompanied by an old maid like me?" "Don't be daft, Pearl," Connie responded. "We could form a cycling club. Everybody welcome." Mikey didn't look too sure. "The Ayfield Wheelers," Rosie added. "The Kinder Peregrines," Connie retorted. "We need a really fast name. We can be a racing club." "You just said everybody welcome. Not everybody wants to race," Mikey pointed out. "Mikey Grimsditch, are you afraid of being beat by a one-legged cripple?" "Fat chance," Connie Gartside. Pearl shook her head, wondering how such extremely close and fond friends could remain so competitive. She rose from her seat, having decided to go to the counter to order a pot of tea. The cafe staff seemed to be overwhelmed by the influx of customers. If any of the youngsters had taken time to notice, she had a thoughtful expression on her face as she crossed the room. The discussion about cycling had struck a chord. One of her work colleagues had suggested earlier that day she needed to get out more. She was still only 29, and life seemed to be passing her by Maybe this was the answer. She resolved to ask the frame builder if he could perhaps recommend a bike shop in the area. Mikey's bike was a bit on the small side for him now. Perhaps she should treat him and herself to new machines. She'd loved cycling as a youngster. "Are you all right, Rosie?" As the incline up Kinder Road had increased, so the distance between the two girls had grown, although the lane had not been particularly steep at any point. "Yes, but slow down. There's no need to rush." The two girls had left Pearl and Mikey at their terrace cottage door and were now cycling to the farm. Connie had stopped at Bowden Bridge to allow her friend to catch up. "You'll soon get your cycling legs. You're a good walker," she shouted back encouragingly. Rosie only half heard, her attention being drawn elsewhere. "Just listen, Connie. Isn't that wonderful?" "What?" "The curlew. It's Grandad's favourite bird." "Oh, there it goes again." Sure enough, the bird's distinctive and joyful cry echoed across the valley. Connie smiled as her friend rode alongside. "It's quite magical now you've drawn it to my attention. I suppose I just take it for granted. Birdsong's part of my life. The chorus wakes me in the morning, and the yip-yip of owls sends me to sleep at night." "It's the coughing of house sparrows that usually wakes me," Rosie responded, somewhat wryly. Both girls now stood astride their machines, gazing into the waters of the stream, rushing and burbling over its rocky bed under the bridge beneath them, on its way to Ayfield, before merging with the River Goyt at New Mills. From there the waters would eventually join up with the River Tame at Stockport, giving birth to the mighty Mersey, which flowed around the southern and western edges of Manchester to Liverpool and the Irish Sea. "How's Ralph?" Rosie asked. Connie's face broke into a smile. "Just as he always is, the best brother a girl could have." The smile transformed into a mischievous grin. "I think there's a couple of older girls chasing him. You'll need to make your move soon, Rosie, or you'll lose him." Rosie remained silent, but Connie noticed the frown that briefly crossed her brow. Having planted her seed of advice, she turned away, as if to study the waters of the brook. It was one of those magical spring evenings. A slight breeze from the southwest was the harbinger of warmer weather. The hedgerows and trees were coming into new leaf, with that quality of fresh, pale, translucent green that only new leaves enjoy. In a few weeks, the hawthorn would provide a mass of May blossom, heralding a new summer. Further up the banks of Colwell Clough, wherever trees provided shade, azure carpets of bluebells predominated. The youngsters set off once more, Connie determined to reach their destination up the increasingly steep slope of the lane first, and Rosie equally determined to reach the farm without having to resort to the ignominy of walking. Once having left the noisy brook, every hedge and tree emitted the chirruping and song of birds, but the bleat of sheep dominated all. The Gartside 6 Scottish black-faced tups, which had been amongst the 300 ewes the previous autumn, had clearly carried out their work successfully, for the first lambs were already born, and the majority of sheep were close to giving birth. They achieved their objective without incident, Connie a good 20 metres ahead of Rosie, but nonetheless impressed with the fact that Rosie had been able to keep up at all. Ralph was waiting for them, sat on the farm gate, and Titch sat alongside, his tail wagging in greeting. The dog ran across as Rosie finally dismounted, as pleased to see her as Ralph was. "Did you have a good journey, Rosie?" "Yes, but my legs are aching." She looked at him as he clambered down from his perch, her bright blue eyes only being outshone by her smile, before adding, "And I'm out of breath." He returned her smile, his white teeth contrasting with brown skin. That's where Connie has the clear advantage. Her artificial limb doesn't take. He paused inwardly, laughing at his sister's rapidly changing expression, but soon continued, in slightly more serious mood. "You shouldn't ride a bike with a rucksack on your back. Connie should have strapped it onto the pannier carrier. Use the bike to carry the weight. That's the first rule I was taught." Both girls looked at each other. It made sense. Ralph's advice often did. Come on, let me wheel the bike for you, Rosie. Mother and Father'll be pleased to see you again. They walked around the back, and after leaning the bikes against the cow-byre wall, made their way into the kitchen. Elsie greeted Rosie with a fond embrace, as she always did, but then handed Connie a large titty bottle full of warm milk. Without a word, her daughter marched over to the fireplace. Rosie turned in surprise. Titch was licking the face of a lamb curled up in a basket in front of the fire. The Mancunian watched in wonder as her friend squatted on the old flock mat. The orphaned lamb sucked eagerly at the bottle Connie held in her outstretched hand.